So many different types of trees, giving us fruit and nuts and spices and shade, habitat, filtering water, helping the soil. Have you ever thought of yourself as connected to the world around you as a tree? With a background in ecology, I was surprised to have this revelation recently. But it's true. Our separateness is an illusion. We don't have roots that connect to each other the way that trees do. But those connections, not only to the people in our lives, but also all of the other living things and the physical environment, is not just a sentimental spiritual metaphor, but it is scientific fact. I do find deep spiritual meaning in that scientific fact, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about being a Unitarian Universalist, is that our religion and science are woven together, and that we find deep meaning in the scientific realities around us that are just marvelous. In our reading earlier, Robin Wall Kimmerer talked about relationship, reciprocal relationship. An integral part of every human's education is to know that we are in reciprocal relationship with the non-humans around us, and we must learn how to perform the duties of those relationships. It's not always clear what those duties are, right? So for me, the first step is noticing, to give our attention. And attention is actually very powerful. It's one of the highest forms of love, to give your attention. And once you give your attention to the world around you, then the duties become apparent. We don't have to know the way before we start. I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, I walked to school. I lived within a mile, so they didn't give me a bus. So I would walk through my neighborhood and then along busy roads and cut through parking lots and eventually come to a stream. And I followed the stream along the side of the ball field and around a curve where there was this gorgeous ginkgo tree. And then the stream curved along the next side of the ball field, between the ball field and the school. And then it traveled through a culvert under the road and off to I don't even know where. But I went by this creek every single day for 4 years. And I went by the same tree, underneath the tree in all seasons. My friends and I would sit by this creek after school when the weather was nice, and there was a little wooden bridge that went across from the school to the ball field, and we spent a lot of time there. But we noticed that the creek would get clogged with the mown clippings from the ball field, and when the mowers mowed the ball field, they also took a weed whacker to the banks of the creek, which were pretty steep. And all the clippings would fall into the water, and they would rot there. It would get clogged and smelly and just really not a nice place to spend time with anymore. Well, my friends and I happened to be in an ecology club together, so we put on our rubber waders and we measured the oxygen level in the water, because when things rot, it uses up the oxygen in the water. And then the things that are supposed to be living in a healthy creek suffocate. We presented our grim findings to the school and petitioned the school to tell the mowers not to weed whack the banks of the creek. And it worked. Over the summer, the mowers mowed the ball fields but left the creek banks to grow tall, and the creek started to clear up. In the fall, my friends and I put on our rubber waders again and found that the oxygen levels were improving. The following spring, a family of ducks moved in, and it was just great to have ducklings outside the high school. My friends and I found crayfish in the creek, and even tiny minnows, which hadn't been able to survive in the creek before. The tall plants on the bank filtered out the fertilizer from the ball fields and the runoff from the road, so the creek didn't grow algae anymore. The first step to all of this was spending time with the creek. Notice it. To ask the creek, "How are you doing?" in the ways that we knew how. On previous Sundays, we have talked about giving and receiving help, about generosity, and about embracing our different skills and talents and sharing those with each other. What does it look like when you extend your relationships of reciprocity to include the non-human members of our community too? What would happen if we gave those relationships the same attention that we give the relationships between each other as people? Sadie is going to lead you now in an exercise with our clay, exploring those relationships of reciprocity.